Steve Mitchell is widely famous for his YouTube channel, Mind of Watercolor, where he shares great insights and tips on painting with, you guessed it, watercolor. His deep knowledge on several art mediums is only surpassed by the wisdom he gained over the years of being an artist. Hopefully, this episode can help you get out of a rut and keep on polishing your skills. You can find out more of Steve's work at mindofwatercolor.com, but for now, please join us as we discuss why you should not listen to Bob Ross, different ways to monetize your art, how painting is a lot like cooking, and a rant on digital versus traditional art. Want to be part of the show? Then send in your questions or topics you'd like to see covered to our email at hello@etchrlab.com. If you send us an audio recording, we might include it in the episode. Hi, I'm Anya, and this is Make More Art, a podcast by Etchr, meant to inspire you to keep on creating. Now let's hear from our guest. Steve. Okay.
Hey.
I am familiar with your website, I'm familiar with your YouTube channel, and we will talk a little bit about that for everyone to be up to date on all the good stuff. But for those of our listeners who do not know who you are yet, could you please give us a little bit of background? So I'd love to know your story. When did your interest in art manifest, and why, and how did you get to where you're at today?
Okay, well, it's a pretty long story. As you can see, I'm not exactly young. I probably was interested in art from about 6 years old, I guess. I guess I started actively drawing then. I had these little step-by-step books, and so those were fun. Kind of did a lot more serious art when I got to be 10, 11, 12. My mom was taking a class in drawing, and she brought home her class assignments, and she was using another step-by-step kind of a book that they were teaching out of. And to hear her tell it, which I think she exaggerates a little bit, she got frustrated because she said I was doing the assignments better than her. I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true.
You need to get your mom to the show if possible.
Yeah. And so, and so I started doing commission. By the time I was in 7th grade, I had people asking me, "Hey, can you do this comic book character? Can you draw a picture of my dog?" That sort of thing. And I got a little discouraged because one of my teachers accused me of tracing and then trying to pass it off as real art, as actual copy. I didn't, I promise. So anyway.
How old were you then?
Let's see, that was somewhere in the 6th, 7th grade range.
Okay. And so that is the kind of stuff that crushes our spirits. I'm glad you didn't give up on art. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, my mom had to come to her and say, "No, he actually can draw like that," and so.
What?
But anyway, yeah, it's always been an interest. I didn't think that I wanted to be an artist professionally. Mm-hmm. You know, as I got older, I actually was very active outdoors. I didn't really hunt very much. I fished and liked to hike a lot. I camped. And I thought I wanted to get into wildlife conservation or be a park ranger or something like that, and just kind of paint on the side. You know, I thought maybe that'd be fun, and probably a lot of opportunities for subject matter that was interesting. Turns out, and this is sort of flip the way that it happens in a lot of families. My mom actually encouraged me to go to art school and get a degree in art. So usually it's the other way around.
And
kids want to go.
What year was this? Because this was a long time ago. It's like
19. I graduated high school in 76.
Wow.
So and so I did. I enrolled as a fine art major, just a small local college, and enjoyed it. Had no clue what I wanted to do. I didn't think I wanted to be a commercial artist. But got married as soon as I graduated. I thought maybe what I wanted to do is have a gallery, paint, have a gallery, sell my art. Didn't have any idea how hard that would be. So, long story short, I eventually ended up having to do commercial art if I wanted to stay in art or do something else. Let me think. 1984.
And you graduated school in what, 80?
79.
79.
So,
Wow.
yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I kind of floundered around up until that point, but I thought it was pretty cool. I liked the firm I was working for. But they went under in like 6 months. So,
Okay, that happens.
yeah, it happens. I hadn't been there long enough. So, I decided to freelance as an artist, and that was kind of a mistake. By this time, I had two small children, and I didn't have enough contacts, or networking. I guess I hadn't established myself. Didn't have enough experience to freelance, but I tried it anyway, and I really struggled for 4 years. I struggled, but I was hired on then by an ad agency. Guess now we're probably 1989.
All of this in the 80s. Oh my goodness. And just for context, because I was born in the 90s, digital was not really a thing back then, was it?
It was not. It was not. It was just starting to come around. The the Macintosh came out in '84, but it was not a serious art tool. It was really more of a desktop, expensive toy, more or less. Really didn't start becoming a serious design tool, I would say, until the early '90s. So yeah, but even then we were doing things hybrid. The agency that hired me, I was primarily design, did a little bit of illustration. We pasted everything up I don't know if you know what paste up is, but we pasted everything up by hand.
Wow.
So we did finally get to the point where we were setting our own type on Macintosh. At that time, PCs were really not into the graphic art world. Macintosh was almost solely going down that road. It's not true now, but it was then. So, but anyway, that I was art director there for 6 years, and that was great because that gave me a lot of experience, a lot of contacts. I went back out on my own in '94, and I've been on my own ever since. So, getting my own clients, doing everything from illustration to design. Later on in 2000, as the web grew, I got into web design. So all of that, all the time, from clear back in art school, watercolor was my first love. There wasn't a lot of use of that in commercial art, but I did it on my own because I love on the side. People would ask me to do a painting, blah, blah, blah. There were some watercolor illustrators, and I very much admired them, but there really wasn't a lot of that. So most of the illustration that I did, I started off in the 90s doing a lot of colored pencil, acrylic, especially airbrush. That was big in the 90s. Gradually, by the time you got around to the early 2000s, digital had kind of taken a lot of that away. There was a real fascination with digital. You got a lot of people going back now, being more fascinated with natural media. But at that time, it's like digital was new, so everybody was doing that. So, but
how did you adapt to the changing trends along that? Because you learned so many different mediums, and you just had to go along with the flow just to survive. Because being an artist is hard now, let alone before. So, how did you navigate that?
I would say for me it was pretty easy because I loved technology. I always was curious about the possibilities of what could be done with it. So I was always experimenting. I was always saying, how can we take this colored pencil piece or this airbrush piece and do it digitally? And I love trying new software. Did that a lot. New hardware, I was not intimidated by it. It was almost, I guess if you could say, it was almost like a hobby aside from art.
Learning was your hobby.
Yeah. So I don't think it was that bad. In fact, I was probably an early adopter of a lot of programs. Going to clients and saying, hey, there's this new program out and we can do this much faster. We can, improve all the things that we're doing by doing this, so on and so forth. Wow. So, but, in the end, digital art still is not natural media. So, it can do a lot of things and it can look a lot like natural media, but it doesn't feel like it when you're painting with it. So there's always, I think, in every artist, most of us anyway, that desire to go back and get your hands on the paintbrushes and the pencils.
Did you pursue digital art for a while, or was that never?
Yeah, actually, it was probably a requirement. I lived in an area, or I live in an area that's highly industrial. So I kind of catered to that clientele, a lot of technical art. And really digital was the main way to do that. It was just client revisions were so much faster, easier. And most of what you needed to do, the style that you needed to do, was pretty easily facilitated with digital. So, yeah, I mean, professionally I did. Occasionally, we do some natural media stuff, but in the type of commercial art that I was involved in, natural media was not used that much in technical art. So,
yeah, I'm interested in knowing about that because there's this war between digital and traditional medium that never disappears. It's like the Cold War; it's always there. And I don't know. This could be a 1-hour rant. I would love to hear more of your thoughts about it because before I worked at Etchr, I was part of this online school, and it was mostly digital art. And I heard so many students complain that people told them digital art is not real art. And I don't know. What are your thoughts about this? I'm not going to go on the rant by myself.
Yeah. If it's art to you, it's art, I think. Art is something, I love James Gurney's take on it. It's like, there is no high art, there is no low art, there's just art. And everybody's opinion is going to be different. And I think whatever speaks to you, whatever art has got to come. I mean, if it's fine art or art that you do as a passion, as something, you're not doing it as a commercial client. For a commercial client, you're doing it as a representation of you, what you love. It's got to come from in here, and there's got to be passion. So if that's digital, that's digital. If that's really what brings the best art out of you, then it's art. The controversy comes from originals. I think there are no digital originals because you can just copy digital data and digital files. But that's just semantics, I think.
Great.
And it's true. You have a painting, then you have a painting that you can hold in your hand, and if that's more meaningful to you than the art that you produce, then go make a painting.
There you go. This could be. Oh, I think this is going to be the comments section of this episode. So if you're listening to this episode, head out to etchrloud.com/Mitchell and join us in the comment section because we're going to go all ranty about digital versus traditional art, and I want to know everybody's opinions. This is going to be fun.
Yeah.
This is going to be fun. Okay, cool. And bringing us to today, where you're at today. So you have your blog, you have your YouTube channel, I'm sure you do your own commissions. Tell us about what you're doing right now and if there's any bit left of story to.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, it's funny because if there's a theme to our talk today, it's every artist has got to find their path. The path is best for them. And you don't always know that starting out. You think you do, but you don't. I mean, after 35 years of being a commercial artist, I thought I knew, but I explored different paths, and just one by one, they turned out, nope, that's not it. And YouTube, I started my YouTube channel in 2014. Actually, I just end of June would have been my 6th year doing it. It's primarily what I'm doing now. And I was getting pretty burned out on commercial art. It was starting to cheapen out, meaning it was harder to make money at it unless you like had some big national reputation or something for a particular style. Where I work in this area, you pretty much have to be able to do just about any kind of work. So that was the sort of the niche I'd carved out for myself. You know, if you're an illustrator or a designer in New York or LA, you tend to specialize. Here in the Southeast, it's the opposite. You tend to do everything. You know, it's very hard to make a living specializing down here. So I guess all that to say, I got tired of it. I got tired of just doing what clients wanted and, you know, putting my best efforts into it, and then they would want to change that into something, you know, I thought was crappy.
Yeah, I can relate.
And it's
so
like, okay, 35 years, I've had enough, and we're getting close to retirement. So I thought, I really would love to go into retirement doing something fun, you know, just doing what I really, really love. So, so I thought, hey, we'll try it. And I was actually freelancing and doing YouTube videos concurrently, I guess is the word, for a while. That was hard because it was hard to make consistent content on YouTube and also keep up with the work that paid the bills that I really wasn't interested in doing. So I guess somewhere around 2017, I started doing YouTube full time.
Pretty recent.
Yeah, very recent. Yep, very recent. Just really, really loving it. I really am not doing commissions. In fact, I usually turn them down. I had enough of that. I've had enough of people telling me what to paint. I'm not even in galleries. You know, here's the norm with water, and I have no problem with people that do this. I think it's great because I admire a number of them. But the norm with professional watercolor painters is paint gallery type paintings, enter contests, you know, national contests, join watercolor societies or art societies, become a signature member, go out and do workshops, sell your art, sell your paintings, go travel, do workshops. That's the way the best watercolorists make their money. I would like to do some of that. I just kind of fell into YouTube, and the more I did it, the more I poured my efforts into this, and it's just working. I don't really care if I never do another painting that hangs on a wall. I love just doing a lot. If you watch my videos, you see I do a lot of sketchbook work. I love discovering when I paint and draw. I love turning the light on for someone else. You know, say, hey, I learned this. This is great. You try it. Or explaining things that I've done for years in ways that people can grasp. Yeah. So, you know, that's kind of where I am now. And I mean, yeah, I'll probably do some art, get it framed. I'd like to join a watercolor society, but all of those are lower priority than I originally thought they were.
Wow.
So, I don't know.
How hard was it for you, or how did it click to realize what was a priority and what was not so much?
You know, how hard was it? Well, I think probably it just clicked when I thought, as long as I'm making enough of an income to live off of and support my family. And at the same time doing something I love, no matter what it is, then I'm not going to really question it too much. I started sweating the whole idea of, oh, my goodness, Steve, you're not even exhibiting in a gallery. And I have people ask me, where can I buy your prints? And I do have a place you can buy prints, but I haven't updated the art there in a couple of years at least. I need to. I mean, I want to do that. This is not there's anything wrong with that, but it's just as I see where people are motivated to watch, ask me questions, comment, where I'm learning, and maybe I'll go to my grave just learning how to paint something instead of actually exhibiting. I don't really get a thrill out of doing a big finished painting so I can hang it on the wall anymore. I used to maybe a little bit, but I don't anymore. And it's really hard today in this virtual world like we're participating in right now. Yeah. It's really hard to get that kind of recognition and I don't know. Whatever.
I once was reading this blog post. I forgot who it was. I always like to credit what I hear and read, but forgive me, I forgot. This guy, he did a social experiment where he dropped social media for a while to see where his priorities lay and what he truly loved, or and to figure out if there was anything he thought he loved but didn't. He was a guy that would travel frequently. He was a frequent traveler. He was always traveling, always posting about his travels on social media. When he dropped social media for a few months or something like that, he realized he didn't really enjoy traveling. He was only doing that to put it on social media.
Oh, wow.
And he stopped traveling and he became much happier. So,
wow, yeah.
That really clicked with me. So sometimes I'm like, if I stop doing social media for a month, what will I want to paint now that I don't have anybody in my mind waiting for me to post something or, showing off whatever.
Your priorities change.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah. And, I've never been a huge social media fan. I mean, I do just enough to kind of promote my videos. But I think what I do like about it, where I think it really has a strength, is sharing.
Yeah.
Being able to share, not, hey, look what I'm doing, but, hey, you can do this too.
Exactly. And being generous.
Yeah. That's been the biggest excitement for me is all the comments. People just say, you really made something come alive for me, or increase my understanding of something. And I'm over there going, yes, that's great. I love it.
Yes.
So I could feed off of that, forever.
Yeah, because you're helping people. There's a difference between sharing what you care about because you love it, and it shows, than sharing because you feel obligated to. I think that's the big difference. So. Social media is just a tool. It really depends on how you use it. So, yeah. So I think that's, personally, hearing your story, I think that's a little bit why you were able to define your priorities so clearly. I mean, it wasn't apparent right off the bat. It took a little bit of thinking, but you thought for yourself what made sense for you as an individual, and then you pursued it. And I think there's a lot to learn from that. So thank you.
Yeah, I think you're right. And a lot of these ideas and priorities just sort of manifested themselves.
Yeah.
And you just go, oh, yes, that.
Boom. So. There you go. Awesome. In all of these years doing art and interacting with so many people who are also wanting to learn, and a bunch of them are hobbyists and not professionals, what is the most common issue that you found, and how would you, just thinking about our listeners here?
Oh, most common issue. That's an interesting question.
Or maybe what was your biggest struggle with watercolors that you had to figure out? Either would be helpful.
Yeah. Those are both great questions. I don't know that there's a single biggest issue that, are you talking about like I would get from viewers,
Yeah.
people, um, there is one. The one that I deal with a lot. I would call it the formula concept.
Okay.
Sort of the idea that Bob Ross put in our heads. That there is a step-by-step formula for everything. I love Bob Ross in a lot of ways because he made art accessible. He made people who never thought they could draw or paint try it. But in a lot of ways, for the artist that wants to go on and be more serious and really learn, it's sort of a disservice, because Bob Ross learned every technique. You know, here's how you paint a quick mountain. Here's how you paint a quick tree. He learned every technique by sitting down and experimenting until he found the quickest, easiest way to do it. We should be that Bob Ross, not following his tutorials. And that's kind of what I try to get across. And so I get the most common questions I get, well, aside from what are you using, what brush, what color, what paint. Aside from that, the most common question I get is, how do you paint a fill in the blank? How do you paint a tree? Yes. How do you paint a wave? How do you paint a mountain? And, I hate to be smart alecky, but most of the time that's the question, that's the answer that comes up in my head. I said, you paint them all the same way.
Yeah.
It's form, value, and you do studies until you understand it.
Yeah.
And that's how Bob Ross came up with his little formulas. Come up with your own formulas. So, yeah, I think that's the most common issue.
There you go. It's like when you're cooking. If the best cooks are the ones who create their own recipes. Of course, they need to learn the basics, Here's what salt does to eggs, and here's what salt does to meat, and here's, all those little things and how it works with different ingredients, and then they have the knowledge to put the ingredients together in a way that they come alive. And it's a little bit, it's a lot like painting, right? If you know what reacts to what, then you can cook whatever you want because you have the tools and the know-how.
Yeah, you should have an art. If I say you in the generic sense, an artist should have, I think, this overwhelming curiosity. I think it's one of the things that makes us artists, and it's what happens if, I've also often posed that question to my viewers. What if you limited your palette to 2 colors? What if you did this, left this out? What if you put this in? What if you tried this? And I think that's really important. Insatiable curiosity with not just subject matter, but the medium. Can I paint this? There are a lot of this may be a side issue that I get a lot. Let's see, how do I put this? I will never paint this, or I will never draw this, or I'm no good at this. It's like, and this kind of goes to your other question, is what issues did I face with watercolor? And that was putting myself into a box. The older I got, the more I learned, hey, don't do that. You stop putting yourself into a box. I never thought I could paint portraits. I was terrible at it. And then one time, probably mid to late 90s, I just started sketching. Just started learning form and anatomical structure. I got better. Then I enjoyed it. Now I find this one of the most enjoyable things, in addition to landscape. So don't put yourself into a box. I took my watercolor techniques back to zero because I was painting one certain way for years. In some ways it just seemed dead and kind of lifeless. I thought, I'm going to learn watercolor all over again. And I did. I got better paints. We're probably talking around 2010. Tried different techniques, combined it with media. I never thought watercolor layered very well. come to find out, it's one of the best layering mediums. It's a great layering and glazing medium. So things like that, don't put yourself into a box. Have that insatiable curiosity and always want to know what if.
What was your biggest takeaway from the episode? Please let us know in the comment section of the post associated with this episode at etchrlab.com/Mitchell. That's etchrlab.com/MITCHELL. Like the podcast? Help us support the show by subscribing and giving us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts at etchrlab.com/go/Apple. See you in the next episode, and until then, let's make more art.